from the time it seems we are born till the time we leave this planet, and people have struggled with relationships from generations before, and they will struggle with relationships generations to come. But it's also interesting that how over the years, how you and I follow similar patterns in terms of relationships. And this is, I think, for me, fascinating to recognize how we follow these behavioral patterns, these habits, these rituals, it seems, in terms of relationships. And that's what we're going to discuss. So let's look at it. So I'm going to use the board a bit. There's you. Forgive my drawings. And as much as you're there, you've met someone, you looked into their eyes, and you decided this is the person, isn't it? This is the love of your life, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. You looked into each other's eyes, you decided this person is it, right? And you run in slow motion towards each other, Bollywood music in the background, fireworks, all the beautiful love songs of Lionel Richie, Celine Dion, whatever's playing, and those are the good old days, isn't it? When you ran around trees and jumped through hoops, and that person made your heartbeat go fast and all those nice things. And then you had to face up to life. You agree? And what happened is you had to build a life together, and let's draw it in the form of a pyramid, that you want to do something going forward. And that's where life then starts, where you both take a step in one direction, right? And as much as you take that step, the first month, the first year, the first decade even, what happened? Generally in terms of the relationship. Do you agree? It goes a bit pear-shaped, isn't it? Yeah. All right? So what happens is this person kind of buggers off into the distance, disappears into the sunset, rides off into the sunset. Okay? Except it wasn't like an American movie. Yours was like in the midst of your life. You agree? And what did you do then in the name of love? What did you try and achieve? When that happens to us, what do we all do? What did you do? You ran after them. And as much as you may have not hopefully physically ran after them, mentally and emotionally your mind is running after them. You agree? All right? And they may then come back for therapy, do all those things, couples counseling, relationship counseling. Everything works brilliantly. The first time around, you think, wow, great, they're back again. How long did that last? Not too long. What happened next? Kind of disappear into the sunset, all right? And we might as well draw them on the walls disappearing into the sunset. Do you agree? And you can't even see them anymore, all right? And what did you do again in the name of love? Some of us still run after, you agree? All right? And we'll draw them kind of running away, and there's you chasing, right? We try to get them back, right? And as much as mentally, emotionally, you want them back into your life again, because they made your day, your life, your lifetime, and this was important for you. This was made your whole world roll. How could they leave? You agree? All right? And then, as much as you run away, you ended up at the clinic, right? And then you try to move on with your life, right? That means you try to get on, you try to feel better about yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. That's what you come here for, right? And some of us might try to lose some weight, try to study better, gain some weight, whatever it is our insecurities, instability is, right? And what's interesting, as we know in this day and age, that I'm not good enough is sometimes one of the first things men feel when they face abandonment and rejection. And something for a female can be a physical, I'm not feeling good enough. Does that resonate? And what's interesting, we then work on this to try and feel better about ourselves. All right? We try and make ourselves feel mentally or physically or emotionally better. Or sometimes if we don't, we just sit there and stagnate thinking, I can't do anything about who I am. But moving forth in life, be it in terms of studying, in terms of career these days, or just making lots of money, as we might suggest, these are various things we do to try and improve ourselves. Why? We want to appear more attractive. You agree? Why? Because it makes us feel acknowledged, appreciated, agreed upon, admired, and awarded. All right? So as much as we move on with our lives, there's another thing we do, is we run away. And some of us spend our lives running away. Coming to this clinic is a form of running away. All right? Run away from the world. Doctor, will they let anyone in? No, we don't. Well, I don't want any visitors. Call if anyone comes looking for me, please tell them I don't exist or I'm in hiding. All right? We want to run. We want to stay here. We feel close. In fact, when we want to leave, sometimes we feel anxious about leaving because we have to face up to the world. Some of us run back to mom, to the place we grew up. That's another form of getting away. All right? And the one that we probably were talking about the most, feeling right down or suicidal, let's draw it, where you right down here, flat on your backs, thinking life's not worth living. Does that resonate? That can have been the night, 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights before you came to this facility. Sometimes it's a hospital casualty where you're lying there on a hospital gurney. Do you agree? Couple of pills that you took, couple of bottles of alcohol, thinking, what the hell? Is life worth living? You're completely down in the dumps. Life feels like it's got nowhere to go. All right? And sometimes, as much as I said, at least you're in a bed or a hospital gurney, sometimes you feel you're lying on your bathroom floor, or worse, a gutter, a pavement somewhere, because you feel I can't go anywhere. You're completely physically down, and you're mentally, emotionally, and you feel spiritually down, that you have nowhere to go. And at one point you can be here, another point here, another point, hey, I'm going to get on with my life. And another moment you're chasing that person mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically. Do we feel that way? And that's where we are. We're all over the show. As much as it can be one day to the next, it can be 1 hour to the next, 1 moment to the next, where we're all over the show. And now, why are we doing that? Why are we all over the show? In terms of where we want to be in terms of relationships. Even though the person kind of walked off. Why do we end up in such a state? Heartbroken. Does anyone have a solution to sorting out your life when you are, using your words, heartbroken? Was there a fundamental, logical, and rational solution to the problem of heartbreak? And what I want to share with you is that the mind doesn't give you a solution. There is no solution. It's not, take a turn left, turn right, you'll get there, so everything will be sorted, because there'll be a queue of people turning left, turning right, if that was the solution. But there is no solution. So the mind then steps back from logic, rationality, clarity, the frontal lobe, and all those things that make those amazing, powerful, calm, cool decisions of clarity, and goes into this primitive state of fight, flight, or fright. Sometimes chasing after them is a form of fight. Running away is flight, and this is where you're completely frozen. All right? And this is where you kind of get your head above water and manage to get by. So if I ask you something, this is just a bunch of lines. Where's the center point in this whole model? Because you're all over the show. So what blew us up? What made us blow ourselves up? What we've done is you and I made that person the center point of our lives. We put them on a pedestal and a platform, and we want them to deliver on our happiness, our joy, our love, our acceptance, our agreement, our approval, our admiration, our appreciation. Right? But the whole thing is, we've made this person the knight in shining armor, our damsel in distress, and we hope that they will solve us, rescue us, and make our lives complete. You agree? But by putting them up there, you might as well ask them to tell you. But they jump, and you ask how high, which lake, and how long must I drown myself? At the moment, you and I, in this terms of this place, are drowning in the throes of depression, anxiety, stress, and then you're taking a whole lot of antidepressants, anti-anxiety, mood stabilizers to kind of get some oxygen. So the whole thing is that it's not a good space we're in. What is the definition? What do we define as relationships, love? What do we want out of a relationship? Happy, let's write these words, they sound cool. Go. Happy, accept, what else? Compassion, companion, intimacy, honesty, loyalty. Geez, now we're getting exciting. Okay. So we wrote these, we can fill the whole board up with words, and I'm glad you gave me these: happiness, acceptance, compassion, companion, intimacy, honesty, loyalty. Sounds cool. Sounds like a nice, your movies. Doesn't exist. Right? Why doesn't it exist?
Sounds like a man that doesn't exist.
A man that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Companion, what do you want him to do? Talk? Right? Because sometimes it feels like you might as well be, as much as you're in the room with them, you might as well be in different planets. Alright? As much as sometimes it feels like you're on different planets. Alright? Because there is no communication. Forget connection. We've completely broken down. By the way, as much as you've given me those words, what you revealed to me is our insecurities that you and I are going through. And what we do then is we take all these things, and some of you may have thought of other words in your mind that we project out there and we want the world to give us, but they're not equipped to do it because they're going through their own challenges. And how I can prove that to you, because you told me that they need the place, this rehab, this facility more than you do. How the heck are they going to give you all these things if they need this facility more than you do? And there's no way they're going to come through, because they're still struggling with kind of understanding this whole issue. They haven't gone to that space of where they're looking into yourselves as you have been doing to recognize, wait a minute, this is what I want out of life. They're still being out there arrogant, obnoxious, and thinking you're the one who's wrong, and while they have a ball of a time. Narcissists, as you might put it, that there's nothing wrong with them, that they find. In fact, they're just not fine, they really find to themselves. Okay, because it demands what you shared with in a very indirect way, because we ask what we want from others, is you've kind of looked within and pulled out what you expect from others because we cannot address it within ourselves. It demanded introspection and reflection into ourselves to figure out, wait a minute, this is what I need to survive. And let me use another word, to feel fulfilled. Why do I use that word fulfilled? Because when you get broken-hearted, you feel empty inside. Do we agree?
Yes.
All right? And why do we feel empty inside? Because the world is not giving you what you want. And the world can give you what you want for a moment in time or for a long moment in time. But all that does, it affirms the ego. And the ego is a superficial view that we have of ourselves, and we project onto the world. And that ego allows us not to address the inside. And we feel we're okay, but when that ego takes a knock, and generally your ego must have taken a knock before you came here, that broke you, and then it reveals the emptiness, the pain we're undergoing inside, and we don't know how to deal with it. And the idea is to deal with the pain and the hurt and the sorrow inside. And this is why we reach out and say, I want happiness, I want acceptance, I want companionship. Because we feel we don't fit in and we don't belong anymore. Does that resonate? And at some level, if you're here and you've experienced this in a relationship, where you're down, as you said, feeling low, feeling like you want to run away, hoping the person comes back, even though your psychologist and psychiatrist said that person's a narcissist, psychopath, and you should stay at least not 6 feet away, hopefully 6 countries away or continents, different distance between them, yourselves. You kind of don't want to tell the psychologist, if they call you tonight, you're there, right? Right? So as much as we hope they come back, we haven't addressed the deep, dark wounds inside of us. And that's fundamental to make us feel fulfilled. It's filling the emptiness within by dealing with the challenges we face. Let me ask you this, given we're going through all these things, if you hear, did the world listen to what you wanted? No. Has life listened to your story of how you wanted things to be? Has life listened to your movie, like where you are playing this main actress or actor and the love of your life comes streaming? No. Is this your life has listened to your logic? No. Life hasn't cared about your rationality. Life hasn't even cared about what you think, what's going on in your mind. Life went off in its own path. You agree? Where someone else won, and you find out that you were in a relationship, as one patient told me once. I was trying to figure out whether I was the affair or whether he was the affair, and it was interestingly both guys, and it turned out that he was the affair, right? Because it was about who the person eventually ended up with, all right? And life didn't listen to his story because he wasn't keen on being the affair, all right? So what's the solution? If you take what I said and twist it around, you and I need to listen to life. You and I need to listen to life's story. You and I need to follow life's movie. You and I need to follow life's logic, even though it seems completely illogical and irrational. You and I need to shift our mind to go with the path of life. And it's tough. And when we're faced with that stress, that tension, because life is pulling in one direction, and your mind is pulling in another direction, and your ego is pulling you in another direction, it creates this chemical imbalance we speak of, and creates depression, anxiety, and other stressful states. And what's happened is the person and life is not following the story we wanted. And all of us have our stories that we want played out. We human beings love stories. All right? Let me ask you this. What were the last 3 words of those books you read when you were a kid? What did they end with? Happily ever after. You all know that, huh? It's wired in us because when you were kids, you just drank it all in. We completely took it in. And it was happily ever after. You just know it off. And do the books now end with that? I've got a few young kids now, they don't end with that. They've changed it. They don't even, sometimes it kind of leaves you in the lurch. You're not sure how it ends, right? You know? And what's interesting, even though it's the very same story, did your life end happily ever after? So what's interesting, life hasn't even listened to the wiring in your brain that you accumulated for the last 20 years and you still remember. Right? So something interesting, let me ask you this. What was the number 1 animated movie about 2 years ago? 3 years ago? Or last year? Frozen, huh? Yeah. But it's interesting, I'll share with you this. Did that end with happily ever after? It's a very different paradigm, and why I'm sharing you this with you, your kids' perspective on relationships are going to be very different to yours. And I'll give you just one simple example. I think it's simple. What's the number 1 character's name? Elsa. The second one? Anna. The third one? Olaf. 2 women and a snowman. Even no guy features in the top 3. Huh? My son loves that movie. He doesn't feature. He's the oak that gets pushed off the horse or has to feed the reindeer. And fascinatingly, I'm not commenting on it, but fascinatingly, 20 odd years ago, the original Disney movie was Snow White. And she had this deliberately high-pitched voice waiting for Prince Charming to come and sweep her off her feet and I think get rid of that red apple and take away from the 7 dwarfs and send her off to a palace somewhere. And some of us are still wanting that story, isn't it? And it'll be amazing what your kids want in 20 odd years' time after having watched Frozen 100 times. You understand where I'm coming from? What's interesting is we all have our story that we want played out, and the harsh reality is our partners never read the story, and sometimes you even question their ability to read or watch. You know, even if they watched a movie, they're probably wanting to watch something completely different. You know, they were probably, it was more like, to them it was like Terminator or something like that. Right? Tom and Jerry. Right? So the whole harsh reality is, this is where we're at. So do we agree that this doesn't work for us? All right, so hopefully there's different. By the way, do we all agree this is the role we play? This is the patterns we're chasing after, we're trying to pull our lives, we're running away. And yes, in between, we can do all types of kind of mixtures of everything. And one moment, as much as you're down in the dumps, you're up and running, and the next moment there, and next moment here, and we're all over the show, right? And we just don't know where we're going. And these are the patterns, the behaviors we all play out in relationships.